from Peaceful Eating, where I help people relax around food and feel at ease in their own bodies. So I have a few quite juicy questions today. I'm hoping that this is going. I don't know, my screen is doing all sorts of flashy things. I don't know why it's doing what it's doing. Anyway, hopefully this is working. It looks like it keeps cutting out. Anyway, I will press on. So before I get started, I just want you to know that when I answer these questions, I'm answering them in a very general way. I don't know anything about the people who are asking the questions. Most of the time, I don't know anything about them. I don't have a history. I haven't actually spoken to them. Sometimes I get a one-liner. So, I'm just going to respond in the best way that I can. But I do want to encourage you, if you are struggling, to reach out to somebody for support. It really helps tremendously. All right, so the first question that I have today is someone asking, how do I work towards the healthy habits that I need to adopt to make my body as resilient to the coronavirus, COVID-19, as it can be, such as eating fruit and veg and exercising, without falling down the rabbit hole of it being around weight or dress size? And this is such a great question, and thank you for bringing that today. The first thing I want to say is that the thing that popped up in my mind when I read that question is when around Christmas time, when you see all those signs that say, a dog is not just for Christmas, it's for life. And that thought came to me when I was thinking about this question, because I understand that right now, front and center of mind is the COVID-19 pandemic. And, we are being confronted with it 24/7. So it's understandable that it's front and center. And there's also been a lot of fear is being generated around it. And I'm not going to say don't be frightened or anything else like this. It is a serious thing. Although for, most people who get it, it wouldn't necessarily be a serious thing. So, sort of try and keep that in perspective a bit. Obviously, we don't know how we might respond. So, of course, we want to protect ourselves as best as we can. Particularly for this condition, we have been told to do 4 things. Wash our hands regularly with soap is one thing to do, particularly when you've been outside, but before you eat, after you eat, when you are handling food, wash your hands. Keep your hands below your shoulders. I don't like the idea that they say don't touch your face, because telling yourself don't do something just puts in your mind that thing. So instead of that, I just say keep your hands below your shoulders, because if they are that way, you're not going to be touching your face. Then keep your 2-meter distance from people that you don't live with. And if you do cough or sneeze, do it into a tissue or into your elbow, throw away the tissue, wash your hands. So those are the things that we're being told to do. If we could really, everybody was to practice all of those things, we would be in a different situation to the one we're in. But, these are things that aren't necessarily easy to do. Anyway, I'm not going to go down the route of who said what when and etc. That's not for this conversation, or it's not really a conversation, is it? Anyway, the thing about this, your question, is that it's not just about protecting you against this particular virus, right? It's about your health in general, and about helping yourself to do what you can to be more resilient to getting sick. And so what I would say about that is health is a long game, and it's not something we can just do for a short period of time and expect to have better health. It's about consistency of behaviors over time. But I'm going to preface that actually with, what constitutes our health outcomes. it's to a large degree our genetics. And then it's also to a large degree the social determinants of health. So our socioeconomic status will absolutely be impacting on our health outcomes. And there's just no two ways about it. So those things are the biggest contributors to our health. Now, in terms of what's really in our control, yes, there are some behaviors that are within our control. And what studies have shown is that the more of these behaviors that we do consistently over time, the less that BMI, whatever your BMI is, your weight, impacts on your risk of death or premature death. So when people are consistently practicing these behaviors, whatever their weight is becomes irrelevant to their risk of death. So what are these 4 behaviors? The one is to not smoke. The other is to drink moderately, so within the national guidelines or not at all. The third is to eat 5 or more servings of fruit and vegetables a day. And the fourth one is to exercise moderately around 3 times a week. And so what your question particularly was about those 2 things, about the eating fruit and veg and the exercise. And what you wanted to know was, how can you do these things without it tipping into diet mentality or a sort of weight loss exercise for you? So the first thing that I would say around that is think about adding in fruit and vegetables rather than eliminating anything from what you are eating. So it's not about restriction. It's not about trying not to eat certain things. Rather, it's about adding things in. So you could say to yourself, how could I just increase my fruit and veg a bit with this meal or this snack? The second thing is to choose things that you actually enjoy eating, because really it becomes a chore and it's not sustainable if you don't enjoy those things. So choose the things that you enjoy and eat those things. The other thing is to slowly try to build these behaviors in rather than treat it as a diet. Right, tomorrow I'm going to start doing this, and then you're tracking and all of that. Try to be more gentle, more flexible, more fluid with how you're doing this, and just ask yourself, how could I make this meal just a little more nutrient dense? Adding in, what could I add to this? So you're thinking about adding in rather than taking away. The other thing to say is that some other studies have shown that actually eating things like cake and chocolate and sweets and things are not per se harmful for our health. It only becomes a problem when that's all we're eating, or we're eating those things to the exclusion of fruits and vegetables. So it's really important, if you're not going to tip back into diet mentality, eating disordered behaviors, that you are not trying to eliminate things. Okay, that's really important. And then in terms of exercise, I think about it rather in terms of movement rather than exercise, because exercise is often negatively correlated with dieting. So miserable experiences of dieting end up with miserable experiences of exercise, or pushing yourself very hard when you're not eating enough food. And this whole scene is not very sustainable. So think about it in terms of movement, and then think in terms of things that you enjoy. But just to backtrack a sec, when you're thinking in terms of movement, the nice thing about thinking in terms of movement rather than exercise is that it's so broad. Movement includes any manner of just moving your body, climbing upstairs, putting things away, lifting, folding, just sort of daily things that you're doing. You might not have thought about as exercise, but they are all movement. So I think it can be a bit creative, more creative, to think about movement. Things like gardening, dancing, just dancing with music that you like, in your living room. having fun with your child if you have a child, and I know the person who did send this question in does have a child. You know, playing games with your child, things like that. So think about it in that way rather than exercise. And again, really focus on things that you enjoy doing rather than things that you think are, burning calories or things that are, doing a certain thing for you. I hope that helps. So there are a few other things that I thought about to help you not tip into the sort of weight loss story. The one is don't weigh yourself. Get rid of your scale if you have one. Just get rid of it. Notice your uh, notice if you're body checking and really just try not to body check. If you notice that you're body checking, the moment that you notice you're body checking, you're looking in the mirror to see, has my face lost any weight, or oh, this belt is, feeling a bit looser, or is it feeling tighter, or, what's happening with that. If you notice any of those kind of behaviors coming in, that's an opportunity for you to just go, oh, there's body checking, and stop. So you notice, and the moment you notice something, that's when you have some power and some control, and that's when you can have an intervention for yourself. It's like, oh, body checking, okay, I'm not going to do that, and put your attention elsewhere. And then the last thing I wanted to suggest to you is stay connected with communities and people like me and the group that I have. It's not about the weight, and other places that you might be you might be familiar with. Stay connected with those communities. And if and when you hit a snag where you notice that, oh, you are making this about weight loss or you are becoming more obsessive about it, please reach out and ask for more specific and targeted help around that. So I hope that is at least a place for you to start. All right. So the next question I have, excuse me, I've got a bit of a um, high-tech situation here where I've got a few notes so I don't forget things. And blue tacked to my computer. So the next question I have is, how do you escape the cycle of self-hate and eating? Whoa, that is a really massive, book-worthy topic and question. And again, this just came as a one line. Um, I don't know the person, and I haven't been able to get any more information from this person. So it's it's a really kind of big and broad and deep question, and really it's it's anyway, I'm going to do the best that I can. The first thing I wanted to say is, sometimes self-hate and on its own and self-hate and eating are the consequence of trauma. And I don't know anything about this person. I don't know if this person has had some kind of trauma background. And if so, I would really encourage you to seek support in some way that is available to you. But I'm going to take this question at face value. And actually, as I'm talking, I'm noticing my lips are really dry and I need some of this because it's becoming distracting. All right. So I'm going to take this question at face value and assume that the reason that the person who sent this question in is hating themselves is because of the way that they're eating. So I'm assuming that the way that they're eating is in a kind of out of control way. Perhaps there's binging going on. And this is very normal, that it loops into a self-hate cycle. And the reason that it loops into a self-hate cycle is because you think it's your fault, because you think there's something wrong with you and you feel ashamed and you're blaming yourself for your behavior. And so that's why you hate yourself, is if I'm reading this, correctly. So The thing that you need to know is that it's not your fault that your eating is out of control. Yes, it is you who is doing it. Yes, of course, you have control over your motor muscles. But if the reason that you are um, out of control with your eating is actually because you are trying to control it. I know that's going to sound back to front, but actually, when we're trying to control our food, that's when it becomes out of control. When we're trying to control our body, that's when our eating becomes out of control. We're trying to control our body by controlling our food, which makes it go out of control. So the way to help calm down the eating is to stop trying to change your body. Now, I know that this is hard because all around you, there's a culture that is saying to you, you have to be thin, or you should be thin, or in order to be attractive, in order to be wanted, in order to be healthy, you need to be thin. Excuse me. And none of that is true. So the first thing that you need to do to unravel this thing, or not necessarily the first thing, but one of the things you need to do is to stop trying to change your body. You're fighting with your biology, and you're not going to win that fight. Your biology will always win. So that's the first thing that I would say, and you might need help with this because it's hard, right? As I said, you've got everything around you telling you otherwise. The next thing is to stop restricting. Stop dieting, stop restricting, stop trying to control what, when, and how much you eat. And in order to really calm your whole system down, again, I don't know you and I don't know anything about your history, but something that really helps is to try to eat 3 meals and 3 snacks a day, or at the very least, don't leave long periods of time without eating. I would say an absolute maximum of 5 hours, and that's from meal to meal rather than meal to snack. So don't go long periods of time without eating. Try to eat at least 3 meals a day and potentially 3 meals, 2 snacks, or 3 meals and 3 snacks. This helps your body to know that food is coming. It helps your whole nervous system to calm down. And it's really helpful for your body to have some predictability and rhythm around eating. So let me just check if that is everything that I said. Yes, the other thing I wanted to say is you need to eat enough food, and that might be more than you're comfortable with, and it might be more than you think you need, because your mind is kind of very set on a certain amount of food, which is the right amount of food, but that is probably through the lens um, of diet mentality, or and a habit of thinking that a certain amount of food is actually what you need when actually you need a lot more. So again, please do reach out for some help and support. And by all means, do join my Facebook group. It's not about the weight, where you can ask more questions. Of course, you can come back here and ask more questions here too. All right. How are we doing? Let's see. The next question is sort of similar, but not the same, is how do you separate self-worth from appearance and body size? Again, massive, massive question. And I'm going to do my best to answer it in a few minutes. All right. So the thing that I would say to you is when you think about other people, do you think that their self-worth is dependent on their appearance or their body size? Think about people who you know who are in bigger bodies. Do you think that they are more worthy as people? Think about people who are in extremely thin bodies. Do you think that they are more worthy than other people or less worthy? Do you think people are more or less worthy based on their body size? I don't, and I don't think you do either. So why would it be any different for you? You see, the thing is, as I said before, our culture has really conditioned us to believe that attractiveness is based on body size, that health is based on body size, and it isn't. It just isn't. There are many healthy people in all sizes, and there are unhealthy people of all sizes too. So size is not a predictor of health, and size is also not a predictor of attractiveness. If that were the case, then there would be no people who fall outside of the beauty ideal who have, you know, people attracted to them. And it just isn't true. So I think the first thing you need to do is acknowledge to yourself that actually it's a lie that your self-worth is dependent on your appearance or your body size. And you need to keep reminding yourself about that. So there are a few practical things that you can do that will help. The first one is really do an inventory of your social media feeds on whichever platforms you use. If you do, if you're not on any social media, good for you. But if you are, really take a closer look. And you might have done this before. I've had clients before who've done it, and then they've needed to do it again because things creep in again. You know, they follow people and then it creeps in again. So really do an inventory of your social media feeds and unfollow, be a bit ruthless. Unfollow any people who promote um, body size, you know, and health, or body size and a certain type of body and appearance, or they are very heavily focused on appearance. Unfollow those people and those accounts, please. It's a bit harder when it's your friends. Again, I don't know how old you are, the person who sent in this message, and I don't know, you know, what your social media feed looks like, but you might have a lot of people posting photos of themselves, you know, in certain poses, or, you know, looking in a certain way, etc. You might need to let go of these people on social media, or you can unfollow them without unfriending them. That's another thing you can do. I'm not sure about Instagram, but you can definitely do it on Facebook. You don't need to have that constant trigger going on for you. It's very destabilizing. So that's the first thing that I would suggest. The next thing is, you know, we tend to walk around with this internalized internal mirror, and this comes from years and years and years of objectification, and not just in your own lifetime. It's something that's been going on for hundreds of years, where women's bodies have been objectified. But what we do is we internalize it. And so a lot of the time we are experiencing ourselves as if we're looking at ourselves. It's called self-objectification. So what we need to do is intentionally practice experiencing our bodies from the inside. So just times in the day, practice. How am I feeling? Close your eyes. How am I feeling? What's going on? Not necessarily in your mind, but it could be. Not necessarily in your emotions, but it could be. I would say more in your emotions than your mind, really. But it's just, what is going on inside my body? How am I feeling? What am I noticing? What's the experience of being in my body like? Am I comfortable? Am I uncomfortable? That's a sort of basic question to ask yourself. So practicing actually inhabiting your body rather than objectifying your body, looking at your body from the outside in. I hope that makes sense. Then I would suggest you have an agreement with yourself that you will not speak unkindly to yourself or about yourself when it comes to your appearance particularly, but I would hope everything. So, um, yeah, criticism of your appearance is just not something you're going to be doing anymore. You don't have to love how you look. You really don't have to love how you look, but you can choose how you're going to talk to yourself and choose neutral words and preferably choose compassion, choose kindness. The last thing I want to say is invest your time, your money, your energy, and your attention in the things that matter most to you. That is really the thing that I think is going to help you start directing your life where you want it to be rather than on your appearance. So I hope that helps. And actually, I've just remembered that I didn't say to the person who talked about self-hate and eating that really probably the most important thing you could be doing is practicing self-compassion. Practicing self-compassion, being kind to yourself. All right. Well, thank you so much for showing up. And I'm just going to see if there are any questions. So I can't actually see here if there are any questions. I don't know why, but maybe there aren't any questions. If there are and I haven't seen them, then please can you just send them in for next week and I will answer you then. So I hope you are well. I hope you're taking care of yourself and doing all the things that we know will help ourselves in this current situation. And really, for all of us, let's just be kind to ourselves, be kind to each other, and do the best we can. Take care. Bye.